734-449-5504. That's 734-449-5505. 5505. I think I said 4 the first time. Or you can go to sienahealthcare.com, CIENA healthcare.com. All right? 734-449-4431, actually. I'm looking at the fax number. Boy, I got it all screwed up today, don't I?
I was just thinking about what a radio voice you have, but, you know.
Yeah, until I screw it up like that. I'm going to have to make sure. Cross that off. 449-4431, Regency of Whitmore. They're right down the street from my house. They put a lot of money into the place. It looks really nice. They got good people there. So check it out. They got life enrichment program and a secured memory care unit. So if you're older and you get the hip, knees, whatever done, you need some place to go.
You pointing at me? What are you pointing
I'm not. I'm looking at you, dude. It's probably more like me than you. But so anyways, we're talking about Barack's Cold War before the end of his term here. 3 weeks, right? 3 weeks left. And so he decides to go ahead and hurt them by throwing 35 diplomats out of the country, right? And closing 2 recreational compounds that he says are spy facilities. You know, when I'm looking at it with all the toys and the kid stuff out in the backyard, that's a heck of a good spy facility.
Spies got to have kids, man. Wives. That's part of the cover.
I guess. And of course, so Sergei Lavrov, who's the foreign minister for Russia, did what everyone expected him to do. He said, we need to tit for tat, we're going to go ahead and do the same, right? And that was his suggestion to Putin. And, of course, the media all jumps on, ooh, see, now we're starting a Cold War. Yes. But, of course, oddly enough, because Putin is a much smarter man than Barack Obama, takes the high road and says, I'm not going to do what you're doing to our people on this holiday and shoving them out of the country. We're going to let it slide until Trump comes into office, and we'll work with Trump when he gets in. Takes the high road, laughs it off. And some of the tweets from the Russian embassies and whatnot about it were just hilarious. The lame duck, you saw that. I think it was the top of the Drudge Report, too. And so once again, our feckless leader, Mr. Obama, comes out looking like the complete imbecile that he is. And Putin did one up on him. He said, yeah, and all you American kids of the American people in the consulates and stuff, you can come to the Kremlin for our party, our holiday party, and Merry Christmas to all of you. I
tell you, who looks better in this deal?
Russia comes out smelling like a rose yet again. You know, it's just amazing.
They're not the warmonger.
Well, they're winning in Syria, even if they are warmongers.
Well,
yes. It just looks stupid. I'm thinking, you know what, Barack, come on. Go out with a little dignity. He's walking out of office looking like a complete buffoon.
You know, you mentioned Syria, and I try and follow what's going on and who the players are, and it depends on who you read on any given day. But when I think of how Aleppo, the fall of Aleppo, and the massacre of the resistance fighters, did you see the video of where Assad's forces were actually letting the resistance fighters and their families leave on buses for other parts of Syria?
Yeah.
I mean, is that what you do? Is that a massacre? Is that what you call a massacre?
Yeah. And here's another thing. You know, the mainstream media doesn't cover it so much, but you can see it on some of the lesser websites. All the towns and people that are celebrating because they've been freed from the ISIS people and these alleged, they're all one. You can't tell me who's a good guy rebel in Syria versus somebody else.
Yeah.
You know, and I tweeted out earlier this week, let's all just step back for 1 minute and take a good long look at the Middle East, right? And for me, I hate taking this big 10,000-foot view, but this is what it is. Birthplace of mankind, right? Birthplace of civilization, Africa and the Middle East, right? Persia, the Sumerians, whatever. Civilization has been there for 5,000, 10,000, whatever the archaeologists want to call it, right? But it's the crap hole of the world today.
I'm teaching.
You have to look at what has happened where the birthplace of civilization is still today, in 2017 almost, the crap hole of the world.
I'm teaching Isaiah right now in my Wednesday night Bible study. And not to go down the religious track again, but when you look at this, when you look at a book like Isaiah and it talks about all these prophecies of what's going to happen, you have to do some study about what's happening locally. And you find out there is nothing different now. It's just one kingdom, one political power, allying, shifting allegiances, pressing against this, trying to expand their influence in the Middle East, and they've been doing it for thousands and thousands of years.
Yeah, they've never grown up.
No, and it's the slaughters. It's not necessarily a kind action. It's barbaric.
It is.
It has been.
You know what? Here's what I think: the civilized Western world and China, for whatever you want to call it, at some point you got to step back and say, listen, these people don't want our civilization. They're not ready for democracy. They really are not. They work best when they're under a dictatorship of some sort or another, a strongman, authoritarian, a tribal, whatever. Let them alone. Maybe it's time to just quarantine the Middle East, because even in the places in the Middle East where things are beautiful, like Saudi Arabia, where the buildings are tall and huge and beautiful and everything's nice, they're still cutting the heads off people for being homosexuals.
Yeah.
They're stoning women for not wearing their hijab. They're whipping them because they drove their car without their husband's permission or went to the grocery store without having a male escort. So even in the most peaceful part of the Middle East, bad things are still happening. These people are not civilized. I'm not trying to be racist, because it's got something to do with the culture, right? It doesn't matter what color those people, because there's a mixture in the Middle East. People come in every shape and color in the Middle East. There's something over there, and it's got to be, it's got to be mixed up with Islam and the culture.
You know, the best, I'm sorry, let's see, how do we say this? The best representation of civilization in the Middle East came under Ataturk, who took Turkey and made it a secular state and enforced it with the military. And then you have the Shah of Iran, the same thing. I mean, it was a Western country. It was basically a Western country in the Middle East until the fall of the Shah. And then you had Khomeini come in and all the atrocities that followed from that.
You got to look at feminists here in this country who are very vocal and blah, 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 and calling, Donald Trump a misogynist and everything else. Feminists, all I can say is go back to the 60s, the 50s, even the early 70s in Iran, in Iraq, in those countries, Afghanistan. And women were not much different than here in the West. They were wearing the same clothes. They weren't forced to wear these prehistoric hijabs and burqas, right?
Yep.
And it's literally a devolvement. They are devolving over there into this Stone Age culture where women are forced into this horrific thing. And I don't understand why liberal women here in America, the feminists, whatever happened to the National Organization of Women now? Whatever happened to them? Never see it anymore, never hear anything from them. I'm sure they're still out there. Gloria Allred, why isn't she up in arms about the treatment of women in the Middle East under Islamic culture?
Because she'd get beheaded if she went over there talking like that.
Well, how about right here in Dearborn and other areas of the United States where women are still walking the streets in a full burqa?
Well,
and they get beaten by their husbands if they don't.
There was a downside to Iran under the Shah. They had disco.
And porn mustaches.
Yeah,
yes, I'm sure. Didn't we all at the time, I think I'm going to say, people will look and see pictures of me on the internet or whatever on my Twitter accounts. Right now, I'm like that picture with a small lamb taped to my face because I've got the full Christmas Santa beard right now. And somehow I age 20 years when I grow a beard.
Yeah, that looks good.
Yeah, it's all right. Once you get to the certain point, you're like, I don't want to shave it off. I've worked so hard to get it. But I can't stand it.
One little clue, just for men.
By the time I was able to grow a full beard, it was completely gray. How's that? That's not fair, man.
No,
that is life is not fair to people. But, anyway, so Barack's doing that. And at the same time that they're trying to screw up our international relations with Russia, along comes John Kerry and Barack Obama. And they go to the UN and they allow the resolution against Israel for building settlements. And
they provoked the resolution.
Well, and that's the thing, right? So he's denying it.
Yeah.
Biden's denying it, and there's all kinds of stuff. And I've got, and I put all this on the Daily Drift, folks. If you're not going to the Daily Drift, you're missing out. Biden denies lobbying foreign leaders to back anti-Israel UN resolution. Now, the Israelis are saying, we have proof. And they're not going to dump it right now because what's the point? They're just going to wait till Trump comes in.
Oftentimes you give away your sources, you give away your proof. So.
Yeah, so they're going to wait until Trump comes into office in another 3 weeks, and they're going to say, look, this is what you guys did to us. Can you please try and make up for it in some fashion or another? I mean, when I listened to his speech, I was home. I listened to the full hour diatribe of John Kerry, Lurch.
You're a better man than I.
And
the things you'll do for your listeners and readers.
He listed off these principles one at a time, and I'm thinking, every time you say principle, dude, I look at you, you have no principles. You're a Democrat.
He's a gigolo. He married into his money. He was he faked it. Oh, no, let's not go to Vietnam.
Gigolo?
Yeah.
Gigolo?
Gigolo, whatever. He married
Juggalo.
Teresa Heinz. Yeah, Harry.
Juggalos. Yeah.
Yes, Mr. Teresa Heinz Kerry.
Yeah, I mean, that's the craziest thing. But there was one thing that stood out, and this was so absolutely hypocritical that it drove me insane. I came out of my chair and was screaming at the television. Derek, you got track 4. This is John Kerry talking about the two-state solution is the best way, and if Israel wants to do a one-state solution, here's the problem with it. Go ahead and play that, Derek.
But here is a fundamental reality. If the choice is one state, Israel can either be Jewish or democratic. It cannot be both. And it won't ever really be at peace.
And here's
Israelis do not
response.
need to be lectured about the importance of peace by foreign leaders. Israel's hand has been extended in peace to its neighbors from day one, from its very first day. We prayed for peace. We've worked for it every day since then. And thousands of Israeli families made the ultimate sacrifice to defend our country and advance peace.
All right, Skip, a lot of people don't know the whole history of Israel. I'm going to tell you this: if you want to learn that history and not be bored to death going through all the minute details, there's a book called The Hajj, H-A-J, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever heard
Yeah.
that? It's forgot the author's name. He's a big author, right? Mm-hmm. And he very experienced in the Middle East and lifestyles of the Middle East. And it's the story of an Arab guy who he would be a Palestinian, I guess, but at that time, there never was Palestine. Folks, there was never a state of Palestine. So they want to make it sound like the Jews stole
Judea, Samaria.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's the story of this Arab, and he's a Muslim, of course, and the story of a Jewish guy. And the Jews were buying up land down there. It's not like they came in and took it. They were buying up land and doing things to make this desert. It had been desert for 1,000 years. Well, they did a simple thing like install a well and put a pump in, and all of a sudden you got pretty decent farmland, Yep. But the Arabs had never done it for whatever thousands of years. The Jews came in, bought the land fair and square. They didn't probably pay a big price for it because it was desert. But they made the improvements. And when you read through, and it's a great story because it does give you a lot of insight into the thought process of Muslim families. Me against my brother and I against our cousin, my brother and I and my cousin against the next tribe, our tribes against the infidel. You know what I mean? And it's very bizarre, but when you read it, you'll finally understand why that culture is so, what's the word I'm looking for? So antagonistic, maybe. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? And so I would firmly tell everybody, if you get a chance, you want a good book to read, you're going on vacation, get The Hajj, H-A-J, The Hajj. And I can't remember the author. Derek, maybe you can look that up for me and we'll tell you who the author is. But it's a great book. It's a thick book. And it gives you the thought processes of the Jew and this Arab during that time of conflict. And it's really just amazing because it gives you the lifestyles of both of them. Just an absolute awesome thing. But anyways, I'm getting deep into the weeds here, aren't I?
Well, you've got this whole thing of you've got the left who's been complaining that Trump and his associates are anti-Semitic. And you got Bibi Netanyahu saying, I just can't wait till Trump is in office and Obama is gone. I mean, you've got Obama and Kerry and group. He's got the whole Muslim Brotherhood in his administration, and he dares call Trump and his camp anti-Semitic when here they are attacking the Jews right now. I mean, the Western Wall, that whole thing was saying that the Western Wall was not part and parcel of Israel. Would it be part of the Palestinian Authority? Because Israel took that section back in the 67 war. And if we recall, the 67 war was launched when all the Arab countries surrounding Israel tried to wipe Israel into the sea. And miraculously, and I stress that miraculously, failed miserably at that, and instead Israel managed to retake some of its historical holdings, such as Jerusalem.
Yeah.
And hopefully Trump will move our embassy from Tel Aviv into Jerusalem to recognize the Jewish capital.
Yeah,
there's a lot of stuff going on here.
Yeah, what's amazing is the fact that John Kerry, throughout that hour and 10-minute speech or 13-minute speech, whatever it was, put all the blame on Israel because they're building some settlements.